Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi Jong, and today we're talking about a beauty brand that is new to me called Monsi 7. So this was actually recommended by several subscribers. I know a lot of people absolutely love this brand, and it is in the field of clean beauty. However, they go a little bit beyond that, and that's kind of what they say. They say they are beyond clean beauty. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. This is how they come packaged. And you get this little box. I wanted to show you this though, just so you know that this is sealed. So, this will come sealed over, and then everything, at least everything that I picked up, is in a container like this. And this is what it is. So we've got all cream products. We're going to take a look at what I picked up. We've got 3 different types of products and several colors that I picked up. There are a few other things that I did not get to experiment with from this brand, but I tried to get a variety. So we're going to talk about those. We've got some demos and so forth. Let's get started. So Monsi 7 has a few different product lines, and this is one of the Stroblighters. So this is a cream highlighter. This is the shade Sunsubiro. And I actually picked mine up from Monsi 7 directly, but these are available at Saks and some other retailers as well. I've seen them on Beauty Habit. You can see that this is going to be kind of like a neutral rose with a gold metallic glint. So you can see when I turn here, you see a little bit of gold. So although the pink shade itself isn't warm, because of that gold glint, it will lean a little bit warm. Let's just take a little bit of that. We're just going to kind of buff that in a little bit right above, so you can see if you were to use it as a highlighter, what kind of glint you would get. I think it's a really beautiful shade. Another one of their formulas, this is the Eye Glow color, and this is the shade Ochaya or Ochaya. And you can see that this is going to be a green, but notice this has kind of that reddish brown base. So you've got green if you build it up, that reddish brown shade if you kind of smudge it out. Let's go ahead and do that here just so you can see that. So that's Ochaya. I think it's a really beautiful color. I love these colors with these little bits of flips. So let's move on to the major product in the Monsi 7 line, and those are the Oliver colors. So if you go and you take a look at their site, the majority of their products are in this particular category. And I picked up 4 of these. So this is Chamoisee or Chamoisee. And you can see that this is kind of like it's got a little bit of a reddish tan kind of vibe to it. So this is going to be a little bit warm with a little bit of ruddiness to it. I think it's actually a really beautiful shade on the cheeks. This one is Manketti, and this is going to be a little bit different here. You can see it's a little bit cooler in tone. Instead of having a little bit more of those orangish reddish undertones, we have a little bit more a yellow and a little bit more gray in there as well to make it a little bit cooler. This one here is Etruscan. You can see this looks like a warm peachy pink shade, and I couldn't resist picking this one up for the cheeks. I mean, look at that color. So this is going to be a warm salmon pink. And then we have Sisserou. This is actually what's on my lips right now and my cheeks, but this is going to be a bit more of a plum mauve kind of shade. So, we've got a little bit of that reddish plum mixed with a cooler tone mauve in there. And overall, it's going to be a cool tone shade, really beautiful. I'm just going to take a little dab of that, and we'll buff that out right next to it so you can kind of see what that looks like. And you can see when you actually buff that out, you get a little bit more brown in there, but it still is going to have those plum notes to it. And I'm just going to take a second and buff each of those shades a little bit right next to it so you can kind of see how those blend out. All right, so those are all the shades kind of buffed out there. You can see here how this one here, the Chamoisee, is going to definitely have a bit more, it's just a little bit brighter and a little bit warmer. You got a little bit more orange than Manketti, which when you buff that out, definitely looks a bit cooler, but yet you still have a little bit of a golden tone there. The Etruscan, you you can see is going to be a warm peachy pink. And as we mentioned, the Sisserou is going to have a bit more of a brown base with plum notes. So let's talk a little bit about these products while we look at some demos. I've been testing these out for a while now, on and off, and this past week I really kind of went full force and wore these pretty much every day in some capacity to kind of test out the formulas here. So let's start off with some details about the brand itself. This brand, Måns 7, has been around since 2018, and it is a Swedish minimalistic beauty brand. It was founded by Susanne Måns, and she is a makeup artist. She has worked as a makeup artist for over 2 decades. She has more than 6 years experience as a cosmetic product developer, and then she began the line. So back in 2018. So this has been around for a little while. And one of their major focuses is actually on sustainability. So they produce everything in small batches and they support small scale organic farming. They're trying to minimize waste. So they use raw materials and preservatives extracted from minerals, wild plants and flowers to kind of, get the best of both worlds. Their goal is kind of to take the high performance of conventional beauty products with the nourishment and healing properties of naturally harvested and certified organic ingredients while catering to all skin tones. That is a quote directly from their website. So Susanne Måns, we're not really going to talk a lot about her here, but there's a ton of information about her, about the product line, about the ingredients on their website. It's very detailed. One of the great things about their website is they have a list of everything that they do not use in their products, but why they don't use them. And it's more than just like a sentence. So you're going to see like a paragraph on each thing. So the reason this line was started is because Susanne Måns was really trying to eat consciously, lead a very healthy lifestyle. She started with diet and everything, and it kind of trickled into all aspects of her life. And she just couldn't find a makeup line that she really loved that fit everything that she wanted in there. So she created this particular brand. And the 7, Måns is her last name, and the 7 is actually referring to what they call the Declaration of 7, and that's their foundation of their business values. All right, so it's been about 30 minutes since I applied the ANASI 7 products, and the Ochaya shade on the eyes, I had to kind of build that up to see more of the green. If you brush that out, you're really just seeing kind of that terracotta, orangey red kind of shade. So I built it up, and you can see from here, there's already creasing, and it's just that type of product because it's a bit balmy. So I'm gonna just zoom you in so you can see that, and we're gonna tap it out. So you can see after tapping that out, it looks good as new, but that is something that is going to happen if you're building these products up on your eye. So the ingredients used for these products are natural, wild harvested, plant-based, and certified organic. And when possible, they utilize products from 100% circular farming. And the majority of their packaging is going to be plant-based, reusable, and or recyclable. So again, one of their biggest goals is really to create a sustainable line that is better off for the planet. And for that reason, some of the ingredients that they do not use is because of sustainable farming practices and so forth, or perhaps shortages. So for example, they don't use artificial fragrances in any of their products, but there are certain products where they will use ethyl vanillin, which is synthetic vanilla. And that's because if you aren't aware of how there's been a vanilla shortage the last few years and prices for vanilla have skyrocketed, the reason is more so because of the shortage, not really the cost difference. They actually do opt to use more expensive ingredients when there is a sustainable source versus going for a cheaper option. So in this case, they chose to use the synthetic vanilla as a fragrance in certain items that perhaps needed a little something that they chose to use that in place of regular vanilla just because of the harvesting issues that have been going on and the shortages, because they do not want to compound that issue. So all of these products are designed in Sweden. However, they are actually made in Italy. So everything here is made in Italy. And the eye color and the all over colors, those are all 5 grams of product a piece. The highlighter, it says in the same size packaging, but it's 13 grams because it is going to have some more dense particles in there. So I believe you are getting the same volume of product in all of these. And by the way, we do have a 6-month shelf life on all of these products. So let's discuss the texture and performance of these items. So all of these products here have a thin, balmy texture. So they are going to have a little bit of that, kind of moist texture to them. So when you apply them, you buff them on, you will still feel a little bit of that product. It is not a powder finish or anything like that. So that is something to note. And as such, I do think people with oilier skins may not have the best results with these compared to people with a drier skin type. Now, I have to say, I am sharing with you these demos. I do have a couple of wear tests as well. I have to say everything that I've put on my cheeks, which is a drier area of my face, everything held up all day. Everything looked great. There was some fading by the end of a long day, but everything was definitely still present on the cheeks. On the lips, this is going to be a thin pigment. It's balmy, but it's not balmy enough. I like to have a little bit more slip on my lips. So for me, I like to apply the color and then seal it in with a little lip balm. And if I don't do that, if I just apply that color there, the pigment will last, 1 to 2 hours or so, depending on what shade it is. The deeper shade Sisserou will definitely stay present a little bit longer. It leaves a little bit of a stain, whereas Etruscan seems to wear away a little bit faster. But again, that is closer to my lip color as well. It has been 6 hours since I applied the ANASI 7, and this is how everything still looks. Can definitely see the blush and highlight are still present. The eye color, again, just barely brushed it on just for a light tint of color, but it's still there, and I actually don't really see any creasing or disturbance. So let's take a look. So I didn't notice it before, but because it is such a light layer, there is actually creasing here. You can see it, kind of gathered in my lids, but it's a balmy material, so I did expect that. But you can see that everything else has held up really well. It has now been 12 hours since I applied the ANASI 7, and this is how it has all worn. And you can see the cheek products are still visible, and everything looks basically the same from the 6-hour update. Now, the eye color, again, is also going to have this balmy texture, so it's going to give you a little bit of a sheen on your lid, but this is going to crease pretty much immediately. So I've actually tested it a couple ways here. I am showing you a wear test now where I put powder on my lids first, then applied the eye color in Ochaya, and on the one eye, I left it so that was it. There was nothing else on top of it. Whereas on the left eye, I added some more of the powder on top. And it's the Sicily pressed powder in shade Rosy. You can see it really dampens the color, even though the powder itself does not give off a lot of color. And so, it does alter the look to do that. However, that does prevent it from creasing. So if you want to put powder on top of it, it really will increase the longevity of the eyeshadow. So you could definitely use this as a nice base. If you have dry eyelids and you're looking for something nourishing on your lids, this is actually a good product for that as well. And, if you are in a cold climate and you're going outside, you want a little bit of that barrier on your lids. This is a good product for that as well. If you don't mind the creasing, definitely you don't need to powder afterwards. It will crease pretty quickly, but you can easily tap it out. And honestly, these colors, I think these colors, this formula, I think on the eyes, it's best to do kind of a sheer light wash of color with these, and it really kind of sticks with that natural aesthetic from this brand. Now, as for my thoughts on this brand, I have to say that I really like this brand, but it's not going to be for everyone. This is not going to replace traditional makeup for me. In my opinion, this line is best for those who want a minimal makeup look. Maybe you're going for a more natural look, or you are really conscious of the ingredients that you're using on your skin and their particular philosophy fits in with yours. So just something to note, they are not necessarily a vegan line because they do use beeswax in some of their products. So definitely take note of that, but they do have a list of what they use and what they don't use on their website. So definitely check that out. It's pretty extensive. Now, as for brand comparisons, I think the best comparison would be the Chamoisee makeup line. And that is another organic beauty line. And I have definitely used that. I'd have to say I don't really notice any scent in some of their products, like their cream blushes. But in other products from Chamoisee, you do notice some of those natural fragrances and that more like herbal, plant-based kind of scent experience. That's what you're going to smell here with the Manketti 7 line. So it's very subtle, but you are going to smell some of those natural ingredients. I have not noticed actually a vanilla smell in any of the products I picked up, and they only use that in a few select items. So it's probably not in the ones I looked. Honestly, I did not check the ingredients of each of these, but that's definitely something to note. If you are familiar with the new Hourglass Satin Crumb lipsticks, it's a similar fragrance to those. And that's what you're going to smell with the Manketti 7, and you're going to smell that with some of the Chamoisee organic items as well. And overall, I would have to say, favorites between the two lines, I would still prefer the Chamoisee cream blushes over the Manketti 7 because I do feel like those don't have quite as much of a balmy texture, and they just seem to last a little bit better on my skin without fading. But these are definitely a close runner-up in that particular category of cream blushes. So I think these are really nice. They've got a really great range of colors, and the all-over color, I have to say, I really like how it is an all-over color. You can use it on your lips, your cheeks, your eyes, and it is safe for all of those areas, which is not always true of some of these multi-use cream products. We tend to use those on different areas, but they often contain pigments or things that maybe are not safe for use on the lips or the eyes, and it's written in fine print. So there's a lot of transparency here with this brand, and I really appreciate that. Now, I've also been asked to discuss how this brand compares to Phytosurgeons. Phytosurgeons, if you're not familiar with them, they don't call themselves a clean beauty brand, but they follow a lot of those same, philosophies as a clean beauty brand. They just don't like that terminology. And they're based out of Canada. They're a small indie brand, and they have a few product lines as well. But again, they are a small operation, and they're fantastic. They are not organic. They are vegan. They're cruelty-free. They may not be vegan in all of their products in the future. They are considering using beeswax in some items in the future, but currently their full line is vegan. So if that's something that you're looking for, definitely check that out. So we're going to do some comparisons in just a minute, and we'll take a look at some of those products. But just, some basic information about the Phytosurgeons products, the textures and everything in there are very different. But again, they are not necessarily going to have the same category of ingredients as Manketti 7 does. So let's take a look at a few comparisons with some of these different products so you can see the textures. We're not really looking so much at color comparisons as we are going to look at textural and formulation comparisons. All right, let's start off with Phytosurgeons. So Phytosurgeons, we've got a lot of similar categories of products here. They have a highlighter. There's this kind of press in the pan. It's still technically a cream product, but it's so incredibly firmly pressed. It's really beautiful on the skin, but you do need to firmly buff that in. I love the way it looks on the skin. This one here is a Spectral Shine In Fresh Fog, but you can see that it can be a little bit more challenging to apply this. So formulation wise, I actually prefer the Manketti 7, and this actually makes me think of more of like the Chamoisee highlighter or any of your traditional cream highlighters. Before we move on to the next product, let's look at a few more highlighters. This is the Chamoisee cream highlighter, and I will put the name on the screen. I'm going to look that up. But you can see here, you know, obviously color is different. This is going to be more cream versus more of a thin balm. No. So this is the Ritual de Fille highlighter in Ice Bone. I would have to say that this texturally is kind of in between that balmy texture of the Mansi 7 and the Kjær Weis highlighter. But Ritual de Fille does have a product that has a very similar balmy texture. So let's talk about those for a second. And these are the Color Nectar Pigment Balms. So they don't have these in a highlighter, but this is it's kind of like the all over color. You've got kind of this balmy texture. I'm just going to put this here. And, you know, it has a bit of a sheen. You can blend this out. This is going to give you like brighter colors in general. Their color line is going to be brighter and just a little bit more vibrant in general. Whereas the Mansi 7, you've got a little bit more of those like sophisticated muted shades in general in their lineup. But texturally, these are going to all feel very similar. The highlight, the eye glow, the all over color, all are going to have a formula that's very similar to the Color Nectar Pigment Balms from Ritual de Fille. And again, though, ingredients wise, these will differ. So this is one of the Phytosurgeon's Flash Fluorescence shades in Velvet Leaf. And this is going to have a similar shade to, mine's drying up because mine's old now, but this is going to be a similar shade to the Ochaya shade. And we're going to put this right here, right next to it. You can see it's going to be a little bit richer, a little bit more pigmented. This is, sorry, again, mine's drying up, so the formula is not as great as it would be if you purchased it new. But color-wise, it's similar with the Phytosurgeon's. Is going to be a bit deeper. And this is going to be a bit firmer in the pan. So it's still going to be, here's a fresher one that I have. You have kind of like a little bit of a satin, silky texture to it when you rub your finger over it. But you can see how that glides on, but it's going to be thin. It's not really balmy though. It actually has more slip than of a balm does. So it feels, I wouldn't say like silicone, but it has a little bit more of that type of texture versus something a little tackier like a balm. But they're both going to be very thin and lightweight, the Phytosurgeon's and the Mansi 7. But I have to say that the Phytosurgeon's eyeshadows, they perform better on my eyes without creasing than the Mansi 7 do. And by the way, this shade here is Chilled Cherry, one of my favorites. Now, here's an eye color from Kjær Weis. I'll have to look up the name of this as well. But this is actually going to be very similar to that of the eye colors in the Mansi 7 line. So we have kind of this thin, lightweight, balmy texture, and it will crease pretty quickly. You can tap it out. They actually perform very, very similarly, in my opinion. So in that case, it's really going to be, I'd say they're pretty tied. It's going to be more about which colors you prefer. I have to say personally, if I had to choose between the Kjær Weis eye shade versus the Mansi 7, I prefer the Mansi 7 just a little bit more because I feel like although they both perform very similarly, the shade just looks a little bit smoother in the Mansi 7. And I think it's just the types of pigments that they use, whereas you can see this is a little bit more pearly. And I feel like the Mansi 7 just looks a little bit, I don't know, a little bit smoother of a formulation in general. But I only have this one shade from Kjær Weis, so that might not hold up for all colors in their line. Now, Phytosurgeon's, this is Fume. This is a Skin Sparks. Skin Sparks are their blushes. You can see this has like a whipped cream kind of texture. It's very, very much like the Shiseido whipped blushes that were discontinued. And I love these blushes. You can see it's going to be this creamy whipped texture here. Put this on. You can buff this out very, very nicely. And these just stay put so well on the skin. So, you know, I think between the three brands, the Phytosurgeon's wins, followed by Kjær Weis, the Mansi 7 for me. That's my particular preference. But again, the Mansi 7 and the Kjær Weis are going to be pretty close. but I do prefer how I don't notice any scent at all with the Kjaer Weis, whereas the Monsi 7, I do have that subtle herbal scent there. Now, for clarification here, the Kjaer Weis, if you go ahead and you smell their blushes, you go up and you smell it, you will smell that same herbal fragrance that you get from the Monsi 7 products. However, it's just going to be a little bit more subtle, so when I'm applying it to my cheeks, I don't smell it, I don't notice it. Whereas the Monsi 7, I do notice it. And if I put on a lot of product, I will still smell it later on. So that's kind of the big difference there for me. But I would have to say performance-wise, they're all fantastic in the blush department. But again, my cheeks are going to be a bit drier. So I think it's going to depend on your skin type. So I hope this video was helpful to kind of give you an idea of what this brand's about, how these products perform, and how they compare to some other brands that you may have already tried. I have to say that they are definitely a fantastic brand. I really like how they are supporting small scale organic farming and so forth. They definitely have some great philosophies if that is something that is important to you. Regardless of that, I do think, they've got some really nice products. And on days when I don't want to wear a lot of makeup or I'm going for kind of that more minimal look, this is definitely a brand that I will continue to reach for. I, in particular, really love this Sisserou shade. I love it on the lips. I love it on the cheeks. I'm happy with the eye colors, and I do plan on picking up more of these in the future. So, for my everyday makeup look, I probably will still, I will still definitely go with more conventional makeup. However, there are days when I just don't feel like doing much or I'm hanging around the house, and that this is more of what I will reach for on those types of days. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. I'd love to know what your thoughts are, what shades you've tried, if you've tried any of these in the past, if you have recommendations. They definitely have some other products in the line that I have not tried, like bronzer, contour shades, and so forth as well. So definitely check them out. And thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon. Have a wonderful day.